So you just got refused a Canadian work permit. I get it. It feels like your entire plan has just slammed into a brick wall. But here's the thing. A refusal isn't the end of the road. It's really more like a puzzle. And today, we're going to give you the key to solve it.
It's so stressful, it's incredibly confusing, and that letter they send you, it's almost always super vague. You're left just scratching your head wondering, what did I actually do wrong here? Well, the good news is there is a specific reason and it's locked away in your file. And today, we're going to show you exactly how to find it.
We've got a really clear game plan for you. First, we'll decode that generic rejection letter. Then, we'll uncover the real reason you were refused. After that, we'll lay out your options, map out a powerful reapplication strategy, pinpoint the most common mistakes people make, and then we'll wrap it all up with a rapid-fire FAQ.
Okay, first things first, let's talk about that letter you got in the mail. You have to understand that it is not the whole story, not even close. It's a template, and honestly, it's designed to be generic.
A big reason for this is an internal software system that IRCC uses called Chinook. Now, it's designed for one thing: speed. It helps officers process a huge volume of applications in bulk. But there's a downside, right? That speed can lead to mistakes and a total reliance on these standardized checkbox-style refusal letters that, well, they just don't give you the details you actually need.
So, if the letter is pretty much useless, how in the world do you find out what really went wrong? This is where we get to the absolute heart of the matter. You need to see what the officer was actually thinking.
And this slide right here perfectly shows the difference. Think of it this way. The refusal letter you get, that's just the symptom. It gives you a vague category like purpose of visit. But the GCMS notes, that's the diagnosis. It has the officer's specific internal comments, the real reason for the decision.
Which, of course, brings us to the most important question. What exactly are these notes, and how do you get your hands on them?
Well, GCMS stands for Global Case Management System. It's basically IRC's massive internal database that holds every single detail about your file. The notes inside are the officer's private thoughts and comments. You can get them by filing what's called an ATIP request. That's an Access to Information and Privacy request. It's like formally asking the government to see the private file they've been keeping on you.
And boom, here's why they're so powerful. The refusal letter might just vaguely say you don't meet the qualifications. But the GCMS note tells you exactly what's wrong. Your language score was a CLB 5 and the job needed a 7. Just like that, you've gone from guessing to having a clear, actionable problem you can now solve.
Now, before we move on, this is super important. You need to know the difference between a refusal and a return. A return just means your application was incomplete. Maybe you forgot a signature or something. They just send it back without really processing it, and it doesn't count against you. But a refusal, that means they reviewed your whole file and said no, and that creates a permanent record that you absolutely have to address. Okay, so you've been refused, and now you know how to find the real reason why. The next question is, what do you do with that info? Let's walk through your strategic options. This is where you start to take back control.
You basically got three main paths. The first one, and honestly the most common one by a long shot, is to submit a brand new, much stronger application. The second is asking for reconsideration, but I've got to be honest, those almost never succeed. And the third is a judicial review in federal court, but that's really only for specific cases where the officer made a clear legal mistake.
So for most people, reapplying is the way to go. But, and this is a big but, you can't just send in the same documents again and hope for the best. Nope. You need to approach this like a detective. We call it a forensic reapplication, where you build a completely airtight case.
And yep, keep in mind you are going to have to pay that processing fee again, which is currently $155. It's not just about the money, of course, but it does add a little bit of pressure to make sure you get it right this time around.
So let's quickly break down the timelines here. As you can see, getting your GCMS notes is always step one, and you got to be patient. It can take up to 60 days. It's only after you get those notes that you can even think about reapplying, which again has its own fee. A judicial review, if that's the path you take, is on a much faster legal track, but it all starts with waiting for those notes.
So here is the process. You have to follow it. First, you analyze that vague letter for any clues. Second, you order the GCMS notes. Third, once you have them, you compare those notes to your original application. We call this your gap analysis. Fourth, you develop a whole new strategy to fix every single one of those gaps. And finally, you resubmit, but this time you include a powerful cover letter that's basically your legal argument, directly addressing the officer's previous concerns and explaining exactly how you fixed them.
All right, now let's switch gears and look at some of the most common reasons these refusals happen in the first place. Understanding these pitfalls can really help you figure out what might have gone wrong with your own application.
A huge one is what's called a NOC mismatch. NOC stands for National Occupational Classification, and it's just the government system for categorizing every job. So let's say your job offer is for a software engineer. But if your reference letters describe duties that sound a lot more like a tech support agent, well, the officer sees that disconnect and thinks, wait a second, this person isn't actually qualified for the job they were offered.
Another classic is the purpose of visit refusal. This is all about something called dual intent. You have to convince the officer that even though you want to work in Canada temporarily, you have really strong ties back home, like family, property, or a job to return to, that prove you'll leave when your permit is up. If they doubt that for even a second, they'll likely refuse you. And finally, sometimes the officer just doubts the job offer itself. You know, if the company is brand new, or it doesn't have a website, or it's offering a salary that's way below the average for that role, it just raises a ton of red flags that the offer might not be genuine.
Okay, you have the strategy, but I know there are probably still some nagging questions bouncing around in your head. So let's tackle them right now in a little quick fire round.
All right, first up, can you just go to the border and try to get a permit, also known as flagpoling? Super risky, I would not recommend it. Next, does this refusal hurt your future chances for PR? Generally no, unless you were refused for misrepresentation. That's a different story. How long do you have to wait to reapply? There's no official waiting period, but you must wait for those GCMS notes first. Can you appeal the decision? No, there's no formal appeal process. Your only legal route is a judicial review. And the big one, do you get your money back? I'm sorry to say, but no, you don't.
So what's the bottom line here? What's the one thing you need to remember? It's this: a refusal is a permanent mark on your immigration history. You can't just ignore it or hope for the best by sending the same stuff again. A strategic, evidence-based approach isn't just a good idea. It is absolutely necessary.
And that brings us to the final question you should be asking yourself. Don't look at this refusal as a dead end. Look at it for what it really is. It's the exact blueprint you need to build a successful application next time. The answer is literally in the notes. Now you just have to go find it.